At 2:14 a.m. local time, somewhere over the eastern Arabian Sea, 3 B-2 Spirit stealth bombers crossed into what was supposed to be a broken, degraded, half-blind Iranian air defense network. The crews had been briefed extensively, shown satellite imagery, walked through electronic order of battle assessments compiled over 8 months of signals intelligence collection, told that Iran's radar coverage gaps from Operation Midnight Hammer were still present. That probability of a clean ingress to target sat between 92 and 96%, depending on which analyst you asked. What the intelligence community did not know, could not have known, because Iran had gone to extraordinary lengths to conceal, it was that Iran had built something entirely new in the 14 months since the last American strike packages crossed its borders. Not a system anyone sold them, not a system any satellite had imaged being delivered. Something assembled underground, tested underground, and activated for the first time at 2:09 a.m. That morning, exactly 5 minutes before the first B-2 crossed the invisible tripwire that Iranian engineers had placed 300 kilometers from the coast. This is the story of what happened next. And it is not the story anyone in Washington wanted to be telling. To understand why this matters, you have to understand what B-2 stealth technology actually is and what it is not. The B-2 is not invisible. That word is used loosely in ways that create dangerous misunderstanding. The aircraft's radar cross-section has been estimated at roughly 0.1 square meters, approximately the radar return of a large bird. Against conventional X-band and S-band radar systems that make up the backbone of most air defense networks, the B-2 is functionally invisible at operationally meaningful ranges. The critical phrase is most air defense networks, because stealth has a well-understood vulnerability known since the F-117 was shot down over Serbia in 1999. Long wavelength L-band and VHF radar interacts with stealth aircraft differently. When the radar wavelength approaches the physical dimensions of the aircraft's control surfaces, resonance scattering occurs. The aircraft becomes partially visible. L-band cannot guide a missile with precision, but it can detect. It can locate. It can hand targeting data to other systems. Pull back the curtain. Reveal the ghost. Iran had watched how the United States solved this problem on previous strikes. The EA-18G Growlers went in first. The long wavelength detection radars were destroyed. The B-2s flew through the void. Iran had spent 14 months building a system specifically designed to break that sequence. The system that activated at 2:09 a.m. was designated internally as the Zulfagar 3. What distinguished it from anything Western analysts had modeled was its architecture. Not a single radar installation on a hilltop. A distributed network of 47 passive receiver nodes, each no larger than a shipping container, buried between 10 and 30 meters beneath the terrain across a 200-kilometer arc north of the dock, Persian Gulf coast. Each node connected by fiber-optic cable, not radio, to a central processing facility 300 meters underground near Yazd. The nodes emitted nothing. They were receivers only listening passively for the electromagnetic traces that even the most carefully engineered stealth aircraft cannot completely eliminate. No single node could do anything useful, but 47 nodes feeding data simultaneously to a processing facility running 8 years of refined algorithms could build a tracking solution. Not a missile fire control solution, but a detection, a location, a handoff. The handoff went to 3 Cordad, 1-5 mobile surface-to-air missile batteries repositioned in the preceding 72 hours from their known, cataloged locations to new firing positions in mountainous terrain the U.S. had not mapped. The Cordad 1-5 used combined active radar and passive infrared terminal guidance once it received a rough location from the Zulfagar 3 network. Its own radar could activate for a brief targeted burst, acquire, and fire. The entire system was designed around one insight. You don't need to track a B-2 from 1,000 kilometers. You need to track it from 60. At 60 kilometers, a stealth aircraft is flying a predictable ingress toward a pre-planned target. A radar burst of less than 2 seconds is sufficient to achieve guidance lock. At 2:09 a.m., the Zulfagar 3 network handed off a track solution on the lead B-2, call sign Ghost 1, to the northernmost Cordad, 1-5 battery. Inside Ghost 1, the aircraft's defensive management system registered nothing unusual. Major David Holt and Captain Sarah Navarro were 7 minutes from their initial point, their bombing run toward Fordo almost beginning. Then at 2:11 a.m., Ghost 1's radar warning receiver lit with a tone both pilots had heard in simulators hundreds of times and never expected to hear here. A brief less than 2-second emission from an X-band fire control radar. System identification. Cordad, 1-5. Holt broke left immediately. Hard banking turn. Onboard jamming active. Decoy flares deployed. Navarro called contact on tactical radio. Voice tight and controlled. Ghost 1. Spike. Cordad. 1-5. Bearing 047. Possible lock. The warning came 4 seconds before the first 9 Syed 3 missile left its rail. At U.S. Air Force's Central Command in Al Udeid, Colonel James Pruitt watched Ghost 1's threat data cascade across his display and understood in 2 seconds what his pre-mission intelligence had not told him. Iran had a detection capability that should not exist. The Growlers had not found it because it emitted nothing to find. Passive, buried, connected by fiber-optic cable generating 0 electronic emissions. He had 2 options: abort and extract the B-2S, or push through to commit the Growlers to active suppression against radars they were only now discovering, and hold the strike package on course. He had less than 30 seconds before Ghost 1's maneuvering window collapsed. All Ghost elements, push north, Viper flight, immediate tasking, target bearing 047 from Ghost 1, Cordad, 1-5 emitter, weapons free. Tiger flight, execute, rivet, protocol, all threats, full spectrum. Do not let them achieve lock on our assets. The F-22, call sign Viper 1, was already descending. The lead 9 Sayed 3 was airborne at 2 hours 11 minutes and 47 seconds a.m. Mach 4.5. Range 120 kilometers. Terminal guidance combining inertial navigation with active radar homing in its final phase once launched. It did not need the Cordad 1-5 radar to remain active. The active seeker in the missile's nose would handle terminal guidance autonomously. Killing the launcher did not kill the shot. Ghost 1 executed a maximum performance evasive maneuver, deploying decoys, activating its full electronic countermeasures suite. The B-2 is not an agile aircraft. Its flying wing design, optimized for low observability and payload, sacrifices the high G maneuverability a fighter uses to defeat missiles. Ghost 1 could not outturn a 9 Syed 3. Its only viable defeat was decoys and jamming force the missile to chase a false target and lose seeker track in electronic noise. The first decoy sequence worked. The 9 Syed 3 acquired the decoy at 7 kilometers and detonated against empty air 340 meters beneath Ghost 1's actual position. No damage. Ghost 1 continued north. The second missile was already in the air. Viper 1 came down from altitude and found the Cordad 1-5 battery by its own radar emission, the 2-second burst used to generate terminal guidance data for its second shot. That 2 seconds was all the F-22's AN/APG 77 AESA radar needed. Viper 1 ripple-fired 2 AIM 120D AMRAAMs at 41 kilometers, then pulled hard to defeat return fire. The first AIM 120D reached the Cordad 1-5 transporter erector launcher at 2 hours 13 minutes and 2 seconds a.m. The warhead detonated 3 meters above the vehicle. The blast destroyed the launcher, the radar vehicle beside it, and disabled the command vehicle. Battery dead. The second Cordad 1-5 battery, 40 kilometers southeast, activated its radar at 2 hours 13 minutes and 19 seconds a.m. The EA-18G Growler, call sign Tiger 1, found it instantly and unleashed its ALQ-99 jamming system in a focused beam, saturating the Cordad 1-5's fire control frequency across a bandwidth wide enough to deny any frequency agile escape. Tiger I's weapons system officer simultaneously fired two AGM-88 EA-18G anti-radiation missiles homing on the emission. The Khordad-15 attempted to shut down its radar. Too late. The AARGM's GPS-aided inertial navigation had already memorized the location. Both missiles impacted at 2 hours 13 minutes and 44 seconds AM, second battery destroyed. The third Khordad-15 battery did not activate. Its commander, watching both sister batteries die in under 40 seconds, made the only rational call. A live hidden battery was a strategic asset. A battery that activated and died in seconds was a crater. He ordered his crew to remain dark. The decision saved the battery. It also ended the ambush. With both active Khordad-15 batteries eliminated, the Zulfagar 3 network kept generating tracking solutions, but without a battery willing to fire on them, those solutions went nowhere. An alarm system in a house where the doors had been blown off. At 2:17 a.m, Pruitt ordered the strike package back on course. Ghost 1 had expended its full decoy payload and was ordered to withdraw to the recovery tanker. Ghost 2 and Ghost 3, both with full defensive stores, would continue to target. Viper 1 repositioned to close escort on Ghost 2, an unusual configuration, an F-22 flying direct formation with a B-2, serving as a real-time threat sensor for the bombing run. At 2:21 a.m., Ghost 2 and Ghost 3 crossed their initial points toward Fordo. Two Iranian F-14 Tomcats scrambled from Tabriz Air Base at 2:18 a.m. The intercept geometry was wrong the moment the aircraft left their shelters 200 kilometers from the nearest B-2, flying aging airframes with fire control systems that could not see what they were being sent to engage. Vectored by ground control intercept radar, the Growlers were actively jamming on every viable frequency. The F-14 crews flew a search pattern for 19 minutes, in the dark, electronically and literally. They never knew they had passed within 60 kilometers of an active stealth strike package. They never knew an F-22 had maintained a targeting solution on both of them for 11 consecutive minutes without firing, because neither aircraft had entered weapons parameters of the B-2s. They landed back at Tabriz convinced they had chased a ghost. They had. At 2:31 a.m., Ghost 2 released its massive ordnance penetrators over Fordo. 4 GBU, 5-7 weapons in sequenced pattern, each detonating at calculated depth above the hardened tunnel complex, successive shockwaves propagating downward to maximize structural damage to the tunnels beneath. Ghost 3 followed 16 seconds later, targeting secondary enrichment halls and the ventilation infrastructure rebuilt on the western side of the facility. Seismic sensors across the region registered a series of ground disturbances beginning at 2 hours 31 minutes and 12 seconds AM, equivalent to a 3.8 magnitude event. 14 seconds later, a second series. Then a third. The original Fordow caverns, heavily reinforced after Midnight Hammer, held. The secondary connector tunnel's newer, rushed construction did not. 3 of 4 primary connectors collapsed. Ventilation shafts serving the western enrichment hall were destroyed. Power feeds to the primary cascade halls severed. The facility, rebuilt to approximately 60% operational capacity since the last strike, would require a minimum of 18 to 24 months of reconstruction before resuming meaningful enrichment activity. Ghost 2 and Ghost 3 turned south and accelerated toward the Gulf of Oman. The third Khordad-15 battery, dark and silent in the mountains, never activated. Its commander had made his calculation correctly. The Americans disappeared from the airspace without ever finding him. The deeper problem for American planners was not Fordow. The strike had largely achieved its objectives. The deeper problem was the 47 seconds between Ghost 1's first threat warning and the destruction of the second Khordad-15 battery, and what those 47 seconds revealed. The Zulfagar 3 was real, operational. It had successfully detected B-2 Spirit stealth bombers at a range sufficient to generate a missile handoff. The United States had spent 40 years and hundreds of billions of dollars developing stealth technology specifically to prevent this from happening. And Iran had built a deployed, networked, underground system under sanctions, using domestically produced hardware that had activated, tracked, and handed off targeting data on the most advanced stealth aircraft in the American inventory. In real time. On a live operational mission, the outcome had gone America's way because specific things went correctly. The Growlers were positioned correctly. Viper 1 was at altitude and responsive. The Cordad 1-5 radars activated long enough to be found and killed. Change any of those variables, a fourth battery the Growlers weren't covering, a slightly different engagement geometry, and the math changed completely. The assessment written in the following 72 hours was unambiguous. The Zulfagar 3 could not be suppressed by jamming. It generated no detectable electronic emissions until a handoff was required. Destroying it would require physical destruction of hundreds of buried nodes across thousands of square kilometers of Iranian terrain. It was, in the words of the lead NGA analyst, a system specifically engineered to be immune to every tactical answer the United States currently had for the stealth detection problem. The guns were killable. The guns had been killed, but killing the gun did not destroy the eye. The third Cordad 1-5 battery relocated sometime in the 72 hours following the strike. American satellite coverage reacquired it 14 days later. In a new location, in a new sector, radar dark, crew waiting. It will be there the next time American aircraft cross into Iranian airspace, along with however many batteries Iran has preserved, relocated, and hidden since. Alongside the Zulfagar, 3 nodes that watched the entire engagement from beginning to end and reported every detail of American suppression of air defenses technique to the analysts in Yazd who are already studying what they learned. The Fordow facility will take 18 months to rebuild. Iranian enrichment will continue at secondary facilities in the meantime. The timeline to nuclear capability has been extended. By how much remains uncertain. The bomb was not built last night, but the system that detected the aircraft trying to prevent it, that system is intact, underground, passive, watching. And the question no one in Washington has a comfortable answer to is simple. The Zulfagar 3 saw the B-2 coming. The next time the B-2 comes, what will be waiting to act on its data that wasn't waiting this time? That question is not theoretical. It is being answered right now. In a facility 300 meters underground near Yazd, by engineers who just proved they can do what everyone said they couldn't.